Greetings and welcome to Everybody's Business, podcast from the National Entrepreneur Center. I'm your host, Jerry Ross, and I want to thank our chief engineer, Christian Petkoff, our producer, Kevin Ross, the staff of the National Entrepreneur Center, and the lovely and talented Rachel Madsen. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Jerry.
Great to have you here.
Great to have you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's nice to be here. I wanted to talk to you this morning about things that you do well, things that you don't do well.
Uh-oh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that will be hard for you to come up with an idea of something you don't do perfectly. Because
I cannot say that.
you're awesome. But I was thinking about that. I had some great advice as an entrepreneur when I was talking about trying to get better at some things that I wasn't very good at. And one of my mentors said to me, rather than spending all this time on something that you're not feeling very good at to try to improve that, what if you just worked on those things you were really good at and then either hired someone or spent less time doing those things you don't do very well? And it was one of those aha moments for me to say, I had always, in growing up and working on improving my skills, and I would usually go to those skills that I didn't do very well. And yet, what I found is that I love to be around people. I'm very social. I love to interact.
Testimony of how social you are.
And I love to talk.
Yes.
And so that was something that I loved to do. And in doing that, became better at it. Communication. What I wasn't very good at, especially in business, was accounting. I can do it. I've learned how to do it. But in running a small business, I would spend tons of hours trying to do payroll, trying to do my P&L statements. And what that did was it took me away from selling and networking, things that I was really good at, which helped drive profit to the business. And I was worried about my taxes and my P&Ls. And then I found a company that I could offload that to. And I didn't worry about getting the taxes right or the P&Ls because I knew that's something that they were really good at. And what that did was it enabled me more time to go sell to pay for that.
No, of course. That completely makes sense because if you would have focused, I mean, not to limit your abilities in any way,
Right.
But, there's only so much time in a day. And so if you would have, only focused on, the things that you were bad at, it would have made, it possibly make your company a little more average. And when people Google something for a business, they want to go to the best. Right. So by you excelling in your strengths, they're going to come to you and you're going to get that business.
An early example of that for me was football. And I'm next to the youngest of 11 kids. I have lots of older brothers who were really good in football. And so one of them went to the University of Toledo as a receiver. One of them went to Indiana University as a receiver. And that's all I wanted to do was to be a receiver. And so in high school, I played tight end and wide receiver, just like my brothers. But I also played defensive back. And when I went to college, I showed up the first day of practice and they made me a defensive back. And I said, no, wait. I'm a receiver. And they said, no, you're a better defensive back. And I said, but I always thought of, and they said, you've been covering two really good receivers, your brothers, since you were a kid. And so you have experience as a defensive back that we can't buy, but you're just okay as a receiver. And so it was one of those aha moments where I thought, you know what? I didn't even realize that I was polishing a skill that would later allow me to play football in a way that maybe I wouldn't have if I had just been a receiver.
Yeah, so, sometimes we have to listen to what the jury thinks.
Exactly. So what's something that you're really good at?
I think I'm really good with rolling with it. Let's going with the flow.
Yeah.
Rolling with the punches. I think
Those
I can,
gut punches, you're like, oh, okay.
yeah. I think I'm decent at that. I think I can pick some things up. I'm a fast learner, or relatively.
So this may take some time. We may have to come back to this later in the show. What's something that maybe you're not good at?
We've decided I'm a very bad parker. I know. Like I
parker.
learned how to drive in high school, and
A parker. I mean, like car
cannot park
parking?
a car. Yeah, or anything. I'm sure it's anything. I'm really bad at that.
A golf cart.
I'll back up like
Wheelchair.
twice at least.
I can't park it.
No, it's bad.
Have you tried parallel parking? Is that out of the?
Yeah. Well, do you consider if there's no other spaces like in front and the back, is that parallel parking? I'll get away with that. It's in a parallel space, but with other cars, I'm afraid for my insurance.
Thankfully, we have State Farm Insurance as our sponsor. Make sure that you follow Rachel because she may need your help in parallel parking. And so we all carry the burden of being really good at something and not so good at other things. But that was my thought this morning of we've got to really focus on those things that we do well and get better at those. Don't want to ignore the things we need help on.
Right.
But many times we don't want to spend all of our time just on those things. So who's our guest today?
We have Davey Jay. She's entertainment and intellectual law attorney.
Oh,
yeah.
Very interesting topic that I've required help several times from people that could give me advice in that area. So a very important topic for small businesses. We'll get into that when we come back.
The National Entrepreneur Center in Orlando, Florida has been around since 2003 and today is home to 14 business support organizations who have a single mission to help you grow your business. Through free business coaching, low-cost training, and valuable business connections, these 14 business support organizations assist thousands of entrepreneurs each year in starting, growing, and scaling their businesses. So why not visit the website at nationalec.org today or give us a call at 407-420-4848 to discover how you might take your business to the next level. And by the way, the National Entrepreneur Center is funded entirely through local sponsors, which include Florida Blue, Fifth Third Bank, the Orlando Magic, and Seacoast Bank, just to name a few. So let's get connected today and get growing. Check out our website at nationalec.org.
And we're back. Today we're talking with a special guest that I think you're going to really enjoy. It's someone that I didn't know, but I was introduced to through our engineer today, Christian Petkoff. Thank you to all of our crew today. Kevin Ross, who is our producer, Rachel Madsen, who is my sidekick, and Christian Petkoff, who is the engineer for today. You're listening to Everybody's Business, the podcast coming to you from the National Entrepreneur Center. I'm your host, Jerry Ross, and today we have Davey Jay, who is an attorney and shareholder at Meal & J PA right here in Orlando, Florida. She's the past chair of the Entertainment Arts and Sports Law section of the Florida Bar Association. Davey dedicates her practice to the areas of intellectual property and entertainment law, which includes negotiating and drafting various agreements, analyzing trademark search reports, and filings with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, addressing rights management, royalty collection, and copyright infringement. Davey represents clients in the entertainment industry, including filmmakers, actors, agents, managers, promoters, and production companies. She's worked on deals with major enterprises such as HBO, Discovery, Sony, Columbia, as well as indies and startups. She's even represented Oscar and Grammy nominated and winners as well, along with artists and creative who are just beginning their journey. In addition to practicing law, Davey has also been an educator for over 12 years. At Full Sail University, she created and taught music copyright and publishing in the music business, bachelor's program in entertainment and communications law in film production. Davey has served as a presenter and panelist at numerous events, conferences such as the American Bar Association's Entertainment Law Symposium, the Music Placement Conference, Cosmic Film Festival, Miami's Fear Fest, and the University of Florida's College of Law Music Law Conference. So you're in for a treat today talking about the legal aspects of the entertainment business. Thank you for joining us, Davey Jay.
Thank you so much for having me.
I've heard so much about you. It's so great to finally meet you.
Likewise.
Well, tell me about, that's quite the introduction. You've obviously been very busy. Tell us about what you do, what a day might look like in your law practice, and the kinds of people that you deal with.
Well, I often tell people it would never make for a great TV show because most of my day is in front of my computer.
Well, and most of our days now are in front of our computers.
Right, for sure. So a lot of what I do is really acting as an advisor and negotiator, primarily. So I work with my clients like most people do now, mostly telephonically and through Zoom, and basically assist them with either, protecting their rights or getting them set up for success, or advice on what they should be doing to move forward in a way that's, really the safest way and the most successful path for them, and really protecting them.
So how did you get into this? What led you to entertainment law?
Well, I kind of fell into law school.
That could be dangerous.
I know. I didn't really, want to declare a major in undergrad because I never knew what I wanted to do. I wound up with a poli-sci, political science major, just because I was taking classes that interested me. And prior to graduation, I'm like, well, what does one do with a poli-sci degree? Like nobody was hiring like freshly minted political scientists.
Then you heard crickets.
Yeah, exactly. Zero jobs for that. So then I was like, okay, well, I could go to law school. That sounds like fun, which nobody says that either.
Right.
But I actually enjoyed it because I'm just that kind of book nerd, like I really enjoyed, the case law and the analytical side of it and all that. And while I was in law school, I thought, I'll probably be, some sort of civil rights attorney, something, really impassioned,
Sure.
righting the wrongs and all that kind of stuff. And while those issues are very interesting to me and they are very much a passion of mine, I learned while I was in law school that entertainment law was a thing. Like I didn't know that was a thing prior to law school. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really intriguing because I was growing up, I was a ballet dancer for about a dozen years. So that was really kind of my first passion. My uncle, after whom I was named, he was an art restorationist, and he worked for the Art Institute of Chicago and, fixed the masterworks and stuff like that.
So part of your surrounding has always been entertainment and the arts.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, what a cool idea that I could be somebody that helps those people. That anybody that's inspired, I can come in and be the one that's like, hey, this is how we navigate this industry, because the majority of people in creative fields are fantastic at their creative endeavor, but the business side is not their strong suit because that's not where they've been focusing their time and energy.
Right. Well, and you always hear those stories of the artist that gave away their rights, or the music group that signed up with an agent that kept all of their money. And so they get to the end of this successful career and they say, but I don't have anything because they gave their rights away.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my idea, was that like, oh, well, I could be the one that kind of works behind the scenes. So I'm still part of the industry, even though I'm not the one on the stage.
Sure. So how do I know if I have something that's worth protecting, or how do I know whether it's worth the process?
Pretty much everything is, if you plan on doing anything with it, other than just, putting it up on your fridge.
Right. Exactly.
But so there's, as far as like protecting a work you create, if we're talking about like a work of art, so anything from a painting, a drawing, graphic design, a story you wrote, anything like that. Those are all things that are protectable by copyright. And copyright is actually really easy for somebody to register themselves. It's one of the few things where I tell people, you know what, you probably don't need me for it unless you have a hard time working the internet, and so you can just go to the Copyright Office and file the registration yourself so that it's protected. So that's the simplest and easiest thing you can do to always protect your work. And there's really no need for an attorney for that.
To file a copyright.
Yes. And, as far as the next step after that, I would say once it turns from a hobby to something you want to monetize, that's when you really want to talk to somebody about how do I do this properly? Because it's so much easier to protect you at the outset of things than it is to go back in time and clean things up.
Right. Before the cat is out of the bag.
Yes. And that's the case when it comes to, protecting the work you've created, especially if you're collaborating with other people, having an agreement with them or a contract. But also, even just in starting your business, because a lot of people in creative endeavors don't understand that they are a business. They're like, no, I'm a musician. I'm like, no, you're a business.
That's right.
I'm a painter. I'm not no, yes, you are. Are you selling paintings? You're a business,
They're all entrepreneurs. They just don't realize it.
Absolutely. And the other thing is that a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize that they're actually creatives.
Right.
Like in this day and age, to be an entrepreneur, you've got to have content on social media. You've got to market yourself. You've got to have a website. All of those things trigger these different forms of intellectual property in these creative works. And a lot of the entrepreneurs I work with who are what I so call the normal people.
We've all met them. And those other people.
Right. So, they have all of these issues that they don't even understand are issues. Like, hey, did somebody take those pictures for you to use for advertising or marketing? Well, do you even own them? Did somebody design a website for you? Do you even own that? Probably not, because people believe that just because they paid somebody, they own it. And that's not true when it comes to creative works. So it's a whole kettle of fish there.
You're right. And there's two things that you mentioned there that I want to make sure that people heard. One is if you intend to do something with it. There's some things that you do and it's just for you. It's just to create out of your head or write something on paper. But when you intend to do something with it, that's when things change, or when you intend to monetize it. We were talking earlier about puppies. And so we got a puppy recently and it came with all this paperwork. So I said to the vet, should I register all this stuff and should I fill out all this paperwork? And he said, what do you intend to do with your puppy? Do you want to take it to dog shows? And and I said, no, it's a puppy. I just want to love it. And he said, well, then put the paper away, put it on your refrigerator. You don't have to do anything with the paper because you don't intend to do anything.
Exactly.
And so, great point. The next point is about those examples where you might be infringing on a copyright or a trademark. And we're going to talk about that when we come back. Okay? So, practice, get your legal mind wrapped around how we're going to help all these entrepreneurs. And we'll do that right after this. Hi, this is Jerry Ross coming to you from the National Entrepreneur Center. I'm coming to you from my home office because our staff as well is working remotely. But we're working remotely to serve the small businesses in Central Florida. If you have a need, if you want to get connected, there are many ways to do that with the National Entrepreneur Center. So we are still answering your calls. We are still answering your email. In fact, we've been pretty busy these last few months, even working remotely to launch the new online learning platform in partnership with the Lonely Entrepreneur out of New York City, who had about 300 learning modules of content readily available. And we've made a partnership to make that available to you for free while you're working remote. So while you may be home working alone, you don't have to be alone, because the National Entrepreneur Center and our 14 resident organizations have one mission, and that's to help you grow your business. And we're back. We're talking with Davey Jay, who is an entertainment law attorney that can help you with copyright, trademark, patent infringement, getting your rights, and all of those other things that you, as a creative, might need to think about because you too are an entrepreneur. So Davey, I'm loving the conversation. I'm learning so much already. But tell me the difference between the terms we've been using: copyrights, trademarks, patents. How do I know which is which?
Well, there's actually a really easy way to distinguish them for the most part. So first with copyright, excuse me, with copyright, what we're talking about really is art. Any form of art, any kind or nature of artwork is protectable automatically by copyright. So that's everything from, paintings, drawings, choreography, film, music, all of that stuff. Anything you write down, whether it be a poem or a novel or a long letter, an email could even be protectable by copyright.
Because in that email may be some really creative ideas, right?
Yes. And the thing is with copyright though, and this is one of the big misconceptions about it, is it doesn't protect the idea. It protects your expression of the idea. So the way that you communicate the idea, just because there's so many different ways to express an idea, there's so many movies with the same plot, but they're told in a different way. So many love songs, the joke that a country song is all about the truck broke down and my dog ran away kind of thing like that. There's a million different country songs that talk about the lost love and the hardship and, but each one's different. So copyright allows us that freedom to express in our own way, but protects the author of their original work. So that's copyright, very general. Trademark is all about what we call a source identifier. So it identifies to the public the sorts of goods or services. So that can be a name, a logo, or a slogan. It can be a jingle. It's anything that triggers in the public's mind the connection between the goods or service and its origination. So the ba-da-ba-ba-ba,
exactly.
Exactly. I didn't even have to say the word. There was no big yellow M that popped up on the screen.
Right.
And so that right there is the connection between the consumer's mind and the source. And that's what trademark protects. And then patent generally protects like a device, an invention, a method, a process, things of that nature. So I always think of some inventor, in their basement, toiling away at the next new big thing. Like that's really what patent is meant to protect, is that sciencey aspect of things.
And so as a small business person, there's the first angle of I need to protect my idea. I need to protect my drawing or my creative piece. But on the other side of that, we need to be careful that we're not infringing on someone else's copyright or trademark. And so one of the examples that I've run into personally was people going to Google and capturing an image and using that as part of their advertising or part of their corporate materials when that's really owned by someone else. Is that common?
Unfortunately, it is.
I was afraid you were going to say that.
Well, a lot of people have certain misconceptions or misunderstandings about copyright and trademark and just, what they can and can't do. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And so they think like, oh, well, I only used it for this reason, or I'm not using it for profit, or I gave them credit, or they come up with a bunch of different, things that they've heard and go, well, I'm fine because of this. And unfortunately, that's not correct. So I always try to encourage people to think of it like actual physical property. So if you took my coffee cup, but you didn't use it to make profit, you're like, well, it's not like I stood on the street corner and used it to collect quarters, so that's not theft. Like, no, you still stole my coffee cup.
Right.
So, I gave you credit. Yeah, I took your coffee cup, but every time I used it, I said, Davey is great.
She gave me this coffee. Yeah.
This was her cup. Look at what great style she has. This is an amazing coffee cup.
Exactly.
It's so best. So the best way to think of it is, if it's not yours, don't take it. And a lot of people think, well, there's exceptions to the rule, or there's defenses. And what I say is that defenses are fantastic to have in court. You don't want to wind up in court.
Right. Court is expensive.
It's not fun. It takes a long time, and it just sucks the money and energy and joy and time out of your life. Like, you don't want that.
Right.
You don't want that. So, and it is unfortunately the case now where people have been ramping up their prosecution of intellectual property infringement. So like, I've had clients, small business owners, who came to me with their first indication that they did anything wrong was being served with a lawsuit. They didn't even get a demand letter.
Wow.
Straight up got served with a suit in federal court for copyright infringement.
That can ruin your whole day.
Oh, absolutely. And, it's unfortunately my job, a lot of those situations to go like, yeah, you did something wrong and we're going to try and get you out of it, but it's not going to be fun and it's not going to be cheap. It's very unfortunate because in every single case that I've had like that, the people were very well intentioned and they had no idea what they were doing was wrong. And it's
Right.
devastating to a business. Absolutely devastating.
It is. And so that's why we're so happy that you're giving us the time today to educate our listeners, to say you've got to be aware of some of those things before you get into that process. You've got to reach out. Wherever you are in the country, you're close to a small business development center. You're close to a SCORE chapter. Go to the SBA website at sba.gov and look for people in your area that can provide you coaching. Most of that is for free. And then reach out to the professional community. And so you don't have to know it all, but you do have to know enough to say, I don't know about this. I need to get someone who does. And so we really appreciate what you're doing here today in sharing your information with our listeners. And by the way, that stuff about Google Image, I was asking for a friend, right? It's somebody I know. I'm just doing a favor for him, okay?
That's a good part.
Exactly. What's the worst story you've had, or the best story you've had in someone that's had to deal with entertainment, protecting their rights, or actually working through the process of making it right when they did?
Well, the probably the worst story I had was a small business that got they received a demand letter alleging that they were infringing somebody else's trademark. And I've had this happen to a couple of different businesses. But the worst case scenario was, the business came to me and they were like, hey, this isn't legit, is it? Our name's not the same as theirs. And I'm like, well, it's not identical, but it's close. And for trademark, sometimes that's all you need is close. Is it close enough to create some potential confusion?
Right.
And so I had to explain to them, well, here's the thing. We might be able to avoid a lawsuit if you're going to have to stop using that mark, that business name that you're using. Anything that bears that name has to be destroyed. You have to completely rebrand everything. And, they're demanding a settlement payment so that they don't sue you. And so, we can try and work with them on that. But I presume there's going to be some money involved because they paid a lawyer to send this letter.
That's right.
And so that business, they couldn't afford to do that. They had so much product with their name on it that it was a massive loss for them to destroy all of that. And so they wound up going under. As a result, they had to fold the business because they're like, we don't have the money to, relaunch, because that's what it is. It's a total relaunch.
And a relaunch, even a rebrand, you lose some of that momentum that you have in building up that name.
Yes.
I had a similar situation. One of the businesses that I started had a very distinct name, and suddenly one of the local TV stations started using that for their weather report. And so I called them and said, look, I'm just a small business, but you're using my name. And they said, well, it is different. I said, I guarantee you it is different. And we're in different areas, but you don't really want to fight this, do you? And so they quit using it. And it was really helpful to me because my thought was, I'm going to have to rebrand and they're bigger than I am. And so thankfully I didn't have to go down that route. But that's being aware of those issues before they happen.
Absolutely. And, it's one of those things where, and this is the thing with most of my clients, is the majority of the time problems are avoidable. If you seek out the advice first and proceed in the proper manner, like all of these, you can navigate the minefield.
Yes.
And that's, to me, that's what small business ownership is, because, I'm a small business owner at my firm, and that's, every day it's navigating a minefield.
Exactly.
And so that's the thing. And what you were saying is 100% true. Nobody expects you to know everything, like everybody, is good at their thing. And when we all work with professionals who are good at their thing, we make a much stronger team, And so I'm a huge advocate of, get an accountant, get a CPA, get somebody that knows numbers. I do, because that is not me, like
Right. Well,
so,
I found myself working all week to try to get payroll right and to do the withholding taxes right. And I had an advisor who came in and said to me, you can have this done pretty cheaply, and you're spending all your week trying to do something you don't do very well. So if you just spent your little bit of time going to do what you do really well, it would probably pay for that service. And so that's wise advice that we're going to talk to about you and your entrepreneurial journey when we come back right after this.
The Nash Entrepreneur Center has made it easy for you to learn business principles from anywhere at any time with NEC Online. As a supplement to all the great resources at the Nash Entrepreneur Center, you now have free access to over 300 learning modules that you can access at any time. Thanks to the generous sponsorship of Wells Fargo and our partnership with The Lonely Entrepreneur, you can access this powerful online learning platform for free. Learn on your own time and at your own pace. Access product reviews and participate in weekly group coaching opportunities. Right now, the only thing missing is you. So check out our online learning platform today at nationalec.org. That's nationalec.org. Did I mention it's free?
We're back, and you're listening to Everybody's Business with Jerry Ross. I'm your host, and yes, I am in everybody's business. Sometimes I'm all up in your business. And today we're talking with Davey Jay, who is a entertainment law attorney, but also an entrepreneur. And so, Davey, today we want to switch gears and start talking about your entrepreneurial journey. So, what was the most difficult thing for you as an attorney, becoming really your own boss, your own business owner, an entrepreneur?
well, they don't teach us anything about running a business in law school. That literally, aside from taking the business entities course, which teaches you about LLCs and corporations and partnerships and all that stuff, nothing about that is practical.
It is not. And that's true across the board for even people who are in entertainment. If someone's a welder, if someone's an electrician, they're entrepreneurs if they're going to hang out their shingle.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I went into it, knowing less than nothing about what it takes to run a business. I was very fortunate that my partner, Suzanne, did have experience with that, and she did know the ins and outs. And so I leaned on her heavily. I was like, you can be admin partner because I'm scared of all of that.
I would like to give you that opportunity.
Yes, exactly. You're cordially invited.
That's right.
All of that fun stuff. But so it's been a lot of learning for me. Everything from like we were talking before about working with the accountant and doing payroll and withholding taxes and all that stuff. Like one of the best decisions we made as far as running the business has been delegating properly. And so for example, now we use a PEO, which is a professional employer organization.
Yes.
And through them, they handle all of our payroll and all that, persnickety withholding taxes and stuff like that. But they also were able to get health insurance for our small firm, for all of our employees, at large company discounted rates because we're in this PEO.
Right.
And so, it is well worth the money that we pay to have them handle all of that. And so basically it's like outsourced HR.
Right. So you can do what you've been trained and you're good at, and they can do what they've been trained for and they're good at.
Exactly. And so to me, that has been really the biggest key to our growth and our success has been delegating wisely. Because, just relying on the people who are good at what they do, I think I'm a pretty darn good attorney and that's what I should be doing,
That's right. And that's what you do best.
Yeah.
And then you hire the rest.
Right. Exactly.
And there was a point where I said, I can't afford to do that. And my advisor said, you can't afford not to.
Exactly right.
Because you will spend all of your time trying to learn something you don't do very well.
Right. Right. And it's, and it's one of those things that's, it's tough for people to learn and understand that it is actually cheaper to outsource sometimes.
Right.
And, and also to, delegate if you have staff working with you. Sometimes it's very hard to let go of things. You're like, well, it's quicker for me to do it than to explain to you, you got to let it go, and just, have faith that the other people in your organization can do that well and give them that opportunity.
And sometimes that means they won't do it the same way you did it, but that's just different. That's not wrong.
Right.
As long as the job is getting done. And so you give up those jobs and you say, oh my gosh, I don't know that they're going to do it like I do it. Well, sometimes that's okay. They did how they do it, but the job got done.
Right.
What was your biggest surprise as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner?
Oh gosh, biggest surprise. It's been how fantastic our local organizations are. I always assumed, and I was right and I was wrong, that the industry I'm in is extremely competitive. Attorneys aren't particularly known for clasping hands and singing Kumbaya, just not.
No, I would say you're right.
It's generally not one of those, hey, come on, I'll help you out. Let me show you what you need to do kind of things. It's like, watch them fall, so it's one of the biggest.
That was just so true.
It is. But one of the biggest and happiest surprises that I've had as an entrepreneur is that there actually are people out there like that. Some of them are attorneys, believe it or not.
Right.
And then others and just organizations in my community. So like our office is located in the Mills 50 district of Orlando. The Mills 50 district organization has been amazing.
Yes.
As far as, really helping out local businesses. Hey, what do you guys need? What can we do? How do we get you together? And, it's been a wonderful asset, not only just to meet these great people, but to have those resources available. And to me, that's been huge. And I didn't realize that would be such a wonderful influence on us and our business and have such a great impact.
Right. And I think sometimes, regardless of the profession, when someone becomes an entrepreneur, that entrepreneurial bond is so tight because I've met very few entrepreneurs that weren't willing to help another entrepreneur. And so finding those folks that say, oh yeah, I've been through that, or I can help you navigate that minefield. But then as part of that community, you feel the need to help the next one that comes along and says, I need some help. And so there's no one way to be an entrepreneur. I had a mentor who said, if you've met one entrepreneur, you've met one entrepreneur, because everyone is different. And so it's kind of a badge of honor to say, I've become an entrepreneur and I survived long enough to help someone else. And so that is a surprise to some. I always say being an entrepreneur is the best job I ever had and the hardest job I ever had because Absolutely. There's a lot of uncertainty, and we are in a time of huge uncertainty, not only for the economy and the country, but for every small business in the country.
Absolutely.
So are you bullish on the future? What do you think about the future of business and the entertainment industry?
I think that we've got a lot of opportunity for growth and change. I think it's just we've got to seek out those different pathways and not be afraid of doing things differently, especially in the live events and entertainment industry.
Which has been devastated the last 6 months.
Yes, absolutely devastated. As I'm a professional member of the Recording Academy, the people that give out the Grammys.
Uh-huh.
And so we've had opportunities to speak to our members of Congress about like, hey, this is what's going on and this is the help we need and all that kind of stuff. But it's one of those things where, it's not going to be tomorrow or next week or even probably next month or who knows when until the world goes back to normal, if it does, so
right.
We've got to navigate that differently. And so I'm starting to see people do that safely, yet differently, and not just with Zoom things, which, Zoom was great at the beginning of the pandemic, and now we've got Zoom fatigue.
Yes, exactly. and pivot fatigue.
Right. And so like, the Dr. Phillips Center downtown, they're doing shows with pods, like outside pods. Same thing. The Orlando Philharmonic is selling tickets to 10 by 10 squares in the grass in the park for outdoor shows.
Yes.
And so, this is what we kind of have to do, is think of how can we do this in a way that's safe, but yet still gets people out there, and still allows us to enjoy one another in the community, the arts, and allow the businesses to continue. So I think that, overall, I think that it has created opportunity for people in some ways. I know it's been hard. Believe me, I know it's been hard, because it's been hard for me too.
Exactly. And many times, especially as I work with a lot of nonprofits, events are the way that they make their money. And so survival is based on events. And it's been really neat to see the creativity come out for creating events to allow people to do it remotely. One of the dinners that we used to have, which was a fundraising dinner, we did it this year with a chef that sent out the grocery list of things to buy, and everyone went and bought the ingredients, and then they did a cooking class online, and the chef cooked, and everyone made the dish, and we networked during that period of time. But for the nonprofit, you still had to buy the tickets, and they didn't have to rent a hall, and they didn't have to buy the food. And so their costs went down significantly. And so they were able to raise enough money to stay in business. And so it's that kind of creativity that I think will continue even after we do get back to getting together.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's something that one of the things I've thoroughly enjoyed as a business owner is, like, this is going to sound a little weird, throwing parties. Like, I love getting all of our clients and our colleagues and everybody together and have great music. And, like last year, a big party had like local bands. We put together an art show, a local catering company, what I mean? Just like a fantastic, it wasn't like a stuffy lawyer party. It was a rager. It was a great time.
Let's have fun.
Yeah. And so like this year I was super bummed because it's my firm's 10th anniversary. So we were going to have a big 10th anniversary, shindig. And I'm like, well, that's not happening. So what we did was we had a party in a box. We put together a box with a custom cocktail made by a local venue, and a small split of champagne, custom cookies, little confetti bombs. We put a Spotify playlist in there, and we put, like a little brochure that said "Party in a Box."
Wonderful.
Party with us remotely. And like the feedback we got on that was so fantastic. Like, so many people posted it on social media and were like, oh my gosh, this was a great idea. And I'm like, I'm sad that I didn't get to see everybody, but I'm happy it brought so much joy.
Exactly.
I think we have an unprecedented opportunity for bringing joy right now, because so many people need it.
They do. And it's not something that's hard to do.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that many of the small businesses who are out there feeling like they're by themselves have to realize that they're not by themselves. We're just separated right now, but you still have those support structures. You still have a firm that cares about you and wants to include you in that. But I also think that those are the things that people remember to say, what's really important. It's not really the stuffy lawyer partner. It's the relationship that we have with the folks we're dealing with. And we have a relationship with you, the listeners. We're glad you're listening, and we want you to stay around because we've got more coming right after this.
Looking to start or develop your business? Get educated. Get coached. Get financed. The National Entrepreneur Center, Be in business for yourself, not by yourself.
We're back, and you're listening to Everybody's Business, a podcast from the National Entrepreneur Center in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Jerry Ross, and today we're speaking with Davey Jay, who is a entertainment law attorney, and all kinds of information on what you need to know as a small business and as a creative in doing business wherever you are. Davey, we're going to pivot now and talk about you. And so no research required. Where did you grow up?
Syracuse, New York.
Syracuse, New York. And what did you want to be when you grew up?
Not in Syracuse.
Not shoveling snow and scraping windshields.
So much no. No offense to, I loved Syracuse. It's, I go orange and all that good stuff, but man, it is not an easy place to live.
It is not. I grew up in Ohio, and I have lived in Florida for about 30 years now, and I have not missed scraping a windshield or shoveling snow once.
Yeah, nope, me neither. No, maybe Christmas morning, I wouldn't mind to see a little bit of the white stuff on the ground, but that's about where it.
When I miss the snow, I go visit it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I come home.
Yeah, for sure.
So you mentioned that you were in ballet.
I was a ballet dancer for about a dozen years. Loved that. I actually also, I raced BMX when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah. One of my older brothers was, he used to race. And then of course, being the annoying little sister, I had to do it too.
Absolutely.
And thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved it. We had a fantastic track near our house in Syracuse. And I was the only girl racing for a while. And so I was out there racing, which was, no different for me because I had two older brothers. So that was my life. It was always, being the annoying girl, ruining everybody's fun.
By showing up and beating them, right?
Exactly. And so then they decided, a couple of more girls got in on it. They're like, oh, well, we clearly need a powder puff league now. And I'm like, a what?
What?
Powder? No, absolutely. Powder puff. Like I was and I must have been like 8 or 9. So insulted at the notion of my BMX league being called powder puff.
Yes.
That I was like, I'm done because I can't against the boys and you want me to be a powder puff? Like
not surprising that you are an attorney now, blazing trails.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it was somewhat foretold at that point.
Did you play any other sports?
Not really, no. Nothing team wise or anything like that. Yeah.
So 2 older brothers?
Yes.
Yeah. And how much older are they?
5 and 15 years.
Yeah. So they kept you in line.
Oh, yes. Very much so. Mm-hmm.
I had 6 older brothers and 3 older sisters.
Oh,
and
my
so
gosh. You survived.
I got away with nothing. My parents had seen it all.
Yes. No, I didn't get away with anything either. It's not fair. Quite honestly.
It's not. Were there any big aha moments or significant moments where you said, that stayed with me? A teacher, a mentor?
I have had the enormous great fortune of having one of the best mentors somebody could ask for, ever wish for, and now a very good friend. His name is Al Schlesinger.
Yeah.
He was the president of the Recording Academy in the early 90s when Alanis Morissette was on the Grammys. Like he was the president during that point in time. He represented the Doors and the Beach Boys and Tina Turner and all sorts.
My era.
Yeah.
My era.
He managed a group called Bread that.
You bet. Baby, I'm a one shoe.
That's right. So, and Al is just, not only is he like an amazing, groundbreaking entertainment lawyer, but he is quite possibly the nicest creature that's ever walked the face of the earth. And I have seen him spend so much of his time just working with students or, helping people who, just want to talk to him about, what do I do about this, or what's the industry like, or what's your advice on that? He has been so incredibly generous with his time and knowledge, that to me was like, wow, again, you don't have to be like a really, tough and terrible person to do this. You can be a nice guy and still get the job done and, have this massive impact on people. And so that really kind of, not only did I learn so much as far as, my practice goes and how to do this well, but also just be a great person and teach other people and bring them along with you on the way. And like the value in having that conversation with people, it's not a one-sided value. It's not like you're pouring from your pitcher into their cup and you have less for it. Like, you gain too from sharing your knowledge. And that has been just amazing. And again, he's just like the greatest guy with the best stories too. So I've been really fortunate.
And you are fortunate when you meet someone like that in your life, where you say, they took their candle and lit mine and they doubled the light in the room, but my candle lost nothing, and all of a sudden you say it's not a zero sum game. But what's interesting to me then is that you have taught, you're a teacher, correct? You're still teaching and helping students.
Yeah, I'm not teaching at the moment. I'm an adjunct and they didn't need me right now. So
well, okay, you're not teaching at this particular moment, but you have been a professor for years, correct?
Yes.
And you are donating your time here today to help other people. And so I find that in my life, I engage with a mentor and I find myself wanting to be like them and emulating what they do that I respect so much. So how did you meet him?
It's when I was teaching at Full Sail. Uh-huh. They had a relationship with him. He used to fly out from California and teach a class there every couple of months. And like all of the students in the school would stop what they were doing and go have class with Al.
Uh-huh.
So eventually, as the school grew, they hired like local teachers, and I was one of the local teachers to teach entertainment law. And they still had him come back for to meet with the students and do guest speaking gigs. And so I was fortunate enough that he got placed with me.
Sure.
Hey, go to Davey's class. And so I was so lucky, and he and his wife Paula. Again, just the nicest people ever. And it's been, a wonderful thing. Yeah.
Well, in a past life, I was in the lighting business. And so I did a lot of lighting effects for film. And it was amazing. Some of those folks that you would meet in LA that you say, wow, the experience of being around people that were involved in films and making it, entertainment happen that you knew, and you say, oh my gosh, I met people that were part of that. But there's so much to learn, especially in the entertainment side.
Yeah.
So they do make a big impact. Let me ask you some final questions because I want to be a good steward of your time. If you could have a conversation with anyone in history, who would you have a conversation with and what would you ask them?
I'm so hard at these pick one person or pick one thing.
I know. It's like pick your favorite song.
Right.
I'm going to ask you to do that in a minute too. So
you're a horrible person.
I know. I spring that on you.
I know. Right. One person. I obviously I'm okay. I'm going to have to go Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
What a loss this year.
Yeah, I know. And I'm actually wearing my Descent collar necklace today because, she's amazing. There's so many people.
Well, and there's so many aspects of her life that you can point to.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It was, not just, to talk to her about law stuff, what's it like being a Supreme Court justice, but,
So what would you ask her?
Oh my gosh. Just as I would ask her how she always kept her composure so well. The thing
that is not easy to do.
It's not easy to do. The things she went through and experienced and the obstacles she overcame and and not to my knowledge, ever publicly once dropping the F-bomb. Like,
yeah.
Couldn't even begin to know how to do that.
We'll pause for anyone to call the show that has never dropped an F-bomb. And I think we can go on now. It's just, how do you keep your composure, especially when you look at the time that she had become an attorney and her difficulty in just getting a job and being respected to do her work.
Right. Yeah.
To being a Supreme Court justice that really the nation looks up to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that to me is probably the one thing I would say is like, how did you, because the temptation to rail against that with everything in you and just, scream or yell or, and I understand in my head that can be counterproductive to getting your argument across, but at the same time, everybody's got a limit, you would think at some point,
Well, and she may have done that at home behind closed doors, which is, in my case, sometimes advisable.
Yeah.
And yet, you're right. But in writing these questions for these interviews, I sometimes ask myself, and so I think of the people, and then I think, okay, if I had the opportunity, what would I ask them? Because, when you get in the presence of someone like that, sometimes there's just such awe that you just want to be in their presence, and you say, but I don't know what I would ask them, and what knowledge I could gain from them if I had just lunch with them.
Right.
Before you go, I want to ask you about some of your rapid responses for the things that you like. So what's your favorite color?
Purple.
I was going to say, I see your room is purple. And so I was going to guess that. What's your favorite movie? Okay, you can choose more than one.
Oh my gosh. It's still hard. I would say the entire Harry Potter series, not because I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, but my oldest son, that was always our date, is we used to always go on opening night to the Harry Potter movies because he was a huge Harry Potter fan. So that to me is like special for that reason.
That makes a memory.
Yeah.
My son and I watch Christmas Vacation every Christmas. And so not that it's just that great a movie, it's just we make a memory every year doing that. Are you a coffee or a tea drinker?
Oh, coffee all day, every day.
Would you say you are an introvert or an extrovert?
I am an extroverted introvert. I love being on stage. Oddly, I'm, huge on that. But at the same time, I think that can be a persona.
That's right. You can be in character.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Very much being character and that sort of thing. So there are certainly times when I want nothing more than a good book, a blanket on the couch, and just the rest of the world can just keep on spinning without me for a while.
Right. Exactly. Do you have a favorite cartoon character?
Eeyore.
Eeyore?
Yeah.
I would not have picked that one. But I could impersonate that for you. I do that regularly at home. Favorite time of year? Favorite season?
Autumn in New York. Yeah.
Oh, the trees, the leaves changing.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what do you do when you're not working?
Oof. I don't know that I not work.
Yeah, it's kind of a 24-hour thing.
It is. I have currently there's not a lot of free time for me. I have my eldest son is grown out of the house, but my youngest is 8. So currently not working means helping with homework and piano lessons and that kind of stuff. Being a mom, big time. And trying to get some recreational reading in or a little Netflix binging here and there. I've been toying with the idea of, once the world starts to get back to normal, and if I ever have free time again, either getting back in a dance class, or I was, this is a little different, but I had taken a few years ago some fencing lessons, and I found that I really enjoyed stabbing people.
Not in the back, right?
Yeah. That's a lot. And it's actually, oddly enough, quite a good workout,
I bet.
Yeah. And so I'm like, yeah, kind of fun, you know?
So where do you find fencing lessons?
There was at the community center here in Orlando.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. And they have the gear for you too. You can, like go like one off and do an introductory lesson, and buy a package of them, but they have like the mask and the whole thing. Yeah, it's a good time.
I bet. Well, I wouldn't tell a lot of people about that as a lawyer. that you're an expert with swords.
Well, they say the law is a sword and a shield. So
there you go. Would you rather give a speech or plan the event?
Oh, give a speech for sure.
Beer or wine?
Depends on what's going with it. Beer and chicken wings, wine and cheese,
There you go. So if you were going to cook your favorite dinner, what is that?
I'm a big fan of filet mignon with a little bit of béarnaise sauce maybe on the side.
That'll work.
Yeah.
That'll work. And so is that a beer or wine dinner?
That's usually a wine dinner.
I would say that's definitely a wine dinner. Well, thank you for the time that you've given us. We really appreciate your input and your help. How do people get a hold of you if they have questions for you specifically?
Probably the easiest way, they can go to the firm's website, which is mealy.com, meehle.com, or catch us on any of our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of that good stuff. Oh, which by the way, on our Facebook specifically, we have a bunch of videos of like free seminars because we usually do free seminars every summer. This year they had to, not be live, obviously. So we've got 1 hour seminars on starting your business entity, on trademarks, on, different topics that are really valuable for entrepreneurs. So I recommend people check that out. Or they can shoot me an email. It's davey@mealy.com.
That's DAVEY@mealy.com.
Exactly.
Thanks again for your time. And thank you for listening. We'll be right back with some final words on everybody's business.
If you have a business question that you would like to have answered, or if you would like to suggest a topic for discussion, we would love to hear from you. Just email Jerry at hello@nationalec.org. That is hello@nationalec.org.
And we're back. Wow. That topic is so broad. We could talk for a long time. And there's just so many areas that, especially over the last 10, 15 years, have popped up as new areas of it, protecting intellectual property. What'd you think?
I thought it was really interesting in the sense you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So we hear that all the time, but what she was saying that you could protect, it was interesting in that sense. Graphics,
logos, ideas, those kind of things. It's just, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And there's so much misinformation out there.
Yeah, there is. You Google one thing and there's 42,000 answers, but which one's the right answer if there's 42,000? So.
Well, I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that if you don't know, go get some help. Yeah. Find someone that knows that. I know that people here at the National Entrepreneur Center have run into clients that have gotten into trouble going to Google, capturing images, using them on their websites, and those kind of things. So it is something that we all need to be aware of.
Yeah, we all may have good intentions, but we need to be aware of what those, seemingly, it's okay,
right?
But it could fall into a trap very quickly.
Well, State Farm has those commercials with the Aaron Rodgers rate and all of that. So far, they have not captured my image to do the Ross rate, anything like that. I have not seen anyone pirating my image or any of that, but I'm on the lookout for it.
I want the royalties for that.
It's about the royalties. You're right. It always comes back to the money, doesn't it?
It does.
Well, that was a fascinating conversation today, and good information for all of those big and small businesses to say you have to protect your intellectual property. You have to protect your brand. The way to do that is to be vigilant and to say, I've got to be aware of what's going on out there so that you not only protect your stuff, but also don't infringe on someone else's right.
Right.
And so that's valuable information today. and also great fun. She was great fun to talk to. I can see me engaging her services in the future.
Yeah, as soon as she said Harry Potter fan, I was like, my ears completely perked up.
Are you a Harry Potter fan?
Oh, yes.
So do you have posters in your
I
house?
won't say that far.
Okay, we won't go there. Thank you for listening today. Remember that you are not alone. You can reach out and get help wherever you're listening from. There is small business resources in every city, in every town. There is someone that's out there that is willing to help you face whatever challenge that you're facing. Because remember, this is not a dress rehearsal. We'll see you next time.